So I froze up. God knows where I froze up. I do not know. My computer did not like this. Ever since I got the Stream Deck, it's been hacked. Stream Deck hacked me. Hack, 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 hack. Don't worry. My Ukrainian friends at CrowdStrike are working on it right now. They're going to unhack it so that we can expose the fact that in 2025, well, the gross domestic product is going to go down to 70 billion. Purchase parity, they're going to lose a third. The United States loses more. We lose a lot more in the price parity crap. Okay, in order for me to do this and do it well, I got to have my monitor above my camera, because when I look over here, it just changes the perspective. ADD, 1, 2, 3, density, surface for me. So I'm pretty stoked about this in one way, is I think that the United States isn't necessarily going to suffer under war. I just don't. I think what's going to go on is that Donald Trump's going to go ahead and walk over to the Senate, and then when Donald goes, I want this, because he's allowed to put on a defense. Donald, he's in control. The reason he's in control is that the Republican Party's in charge. But if the Republican Party hierarchies rebels, and the judiciary rebels, because when anybody who's got who has any life experience with trying to go to court knows that it's not anything like what justice would be. It just doesn't exist. It's all a theater. You have to be a part of a group. In other words, it's been a private association has taken over the judicial system in the United States. So they can easily sit there and start to play the game of how it's like to go to traffic court to Donald Trump in the Senate. And they're going to say, well, we're going to adopt these rules. These are the rules. So when the bill is sent over, they've got to go take it, and then they have to adopt the rules. Now, what they should be doing, or should have done already, is started adopting rules. Or they can just let it sit there and then say that they're not going to do anything with it until they adopt the rules. That just takes 51% to table it at this point and put it on the table, and then start talking about rules if you're going to do anything. See, they don't even have to bring it up. I think they can table it, right? They can just. You saw Nadler do that. You saw Schiff do things like that. No, I just want to. No, we're not going to take it up. So, I'm very upset that my system froze up. No, I know it was going to freeze because I've been dumping cookies and crap into the browser since I got it. And every day that I go to a different website, it's one more cookie. One more item. But see, I'm not using much memory. I'm not using much. I've got 23 gigabytes available of memory. So, Ethernet, though, it's crushing. Could be faster. My GPUs. Everything, I got 7% and 61%. Now I'd like to be able to balance them. Is there a way to balance GPUs? Can I control the balance of the GPUs? Can I control GPU balance? I don't know. You would think I should be able to. I should be able to direct it. But might be the programs that hunt and choose. Maybe it's Windows. I do not know. And nobody tells me. It all failed. There we go. I just took a look at the big screen, the big things, and see what was going on. Hadn't failed. All right. So I think Donald Trump, I think what I'm doing is I'm going back further. But anyway, where I left off, Donald Trump could find the Senate in rebellion against him because they don't want to share the money in the Republican Party with him. Donald is 100%. It's no different than when Donald Trump saved New York City. Donald Trump saved New York City. And then what did he get in return for it? New York City said, fuck you. Pay up. You're not going to enjoy the exemption because you got a special exemption or you're the first one, so you're going to be the first one cut off. Donald did not like that. And they were doing his cutoff out of spite. And Donald went to court and won. They hate him. So Donald went up against the apparatchik of the Democratic Party in New York City. And then he backed off. He won, and he didn't go into the politics. He took his win, took his chips off the table, and continued on with his high roller stake life. I mean, who knows? Anyway, so he might find that in the courts and in the Senate that right now, see, the de facto controls in the United States of America. The Congress is de facto. Donald Trump is emperor. And at the wick of a pen, at the tip, at the ball, all he has to do is one of these. And those are called executive orders. And he can executively order everybody to report for a bracelet who is in the bureaucracy. So if you're in the bureaucracy and you're employed, everybody, you're going to get a bracelet. You are going to be surveilled 100% of the time, right at this point. And everybody's going to get processed. And this process is going to go and audit everything you've done inside the government. And if you lied to Congress or lied and falsified a report, we're not talking about an honest error. There's honest errors, and then there's 180-degree errors. So, anyway, I'm not talking about you filled out a form, spelled a name, and misspelled it, and that's it. It didn't affect whether or not the form worked or not. But if we find out that you misspelled something, somebody got rejected, or put in jail and you didn't correct your error, well, that's termination. And you owe back to that person who's harmed their life's time. So you're going to find yourself under the 13th Amendment indentured. If you are a government employee, you're going to get a bracelet. That's the only way we're going to survive this. So what I think is going to happen is when Donald says, all right, everybody who's on assisted living, who's getting everything for free because the bureaucrats gave it to you, or politicians gave it to you, well, you're going to be cut off. Be careful what you do. Everybody who is a government employee, you're getting a bracelet on your ankle until you're processed. And then the process is going to include an audit. We don't need all this other stuff going on. So may I suggest that you go home? Maybe get in your basement, start tinkering, and invent something that everybody can have. So if Donald Trump was to do that one move, because he's going to have to, they're going to arrest him. If everything goes sideways and the courts, eventually say, yeah, you know what? His life is an open book. All Donald Trump has to do is go, see this pen? I'm executive. And as soon as he sees that, he writes the executive order that everybody who's in the government, their lives are 100% open to the public. And so what's going to happen is if you're a bureaucrat, you're getting an anklet bracelet, all the computer work that you've done and all the paperwork you've done, that's all going to go public, and we're going to audit it and, have to deal with it because we have to watch you. All bureaucrats have to be watched 100% of their lives. So how many people are going to want to be a bureaucrat at that point? I'll do your Renfields. True Renfields would do that. In other words, Renfield served his master, had no malice to the master, and type things, I guess. Some sort of I don't know enough about fictional literaries to give you a good example. But they're a drone. In other words, they're just going to do the job honestly, in good faith. See, that's where the Democrats don't sit there and exonerate each other and say, oh man, they didn't actually do what you accused them of. They did do it. They did cause the death of people, and they've let secrets go, and they did sell things that are strategic assets. But the entire time they were working in good faith. So that's what's going to happen to the population. They're going to go fuck and leave our country. We're not going to actually have to deal with all that crap, right? But see, the only problem that bothers me is purchase parity. Purchase parity. See, right now we're at $60,000. And it's going to go down to $16,000. That bothers me. But anyway, so I'm trying to Google in my mind, run through and correlate everything. I've read the executive summaries on a lot of crap, just trying to grasp it. So maybe Donald Trump just signs an executive order, and all of a sudden, 2/3 of the American population gets up and goes to Canada. Or maybe they go to China, because, Chinese are killing people. So they're committing genocide in China. They're committing orgicide. Their democide occurs in China at a very alarming rate. So the China statistic could be democide, and then the only reason that it wasn't more than what's this? China stays the same now? No. Look at that. China's the same now. It's changed. So maybe China decimates the 230 million from the United States of America. Unfortunately, I think what Deagle's using famine and migration to say, things move around, people migrate, but America is going to be decimated by war. I think that's what's going on. And then now Russia is staying the same. So I've actually watched this change. Now I still like Russia because their purchase power goes up to 43,000. And that is twice as much. These statistics are changing. It was 49, 43. But their purchasing power doubles. I like that. So that's a good investment. So I should have my monies in Russia. And their population stays the same. It's not growing though. Yeah, it shrinks a little bit. And China shrinks a little bit, according to this, but not much. La 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 la. So, but I'm just fantasizing that there is a good outcome without war. But unfortunately, what's going on where I'm at in Virginia, Virginia National Guard. I opened up with some the Commonwealth's Guardian. There they are. The organizational message, Operation Readiness, Part 2. October 24th. Okay. Anyway, these guys here had a news conference. Representatives. Virginia State Representative suggests. Well, may I suggest that you don't? The Blaze. Now their top story. They finally came out. We have received multiple questions regarding proposed legislation for the General Assembly session and the authority of the governor of Virginia to employ the National Guard. Okay. Read more. We understand and respect. Okay. Well, he can call them, and Donald Trump can say no. Donald Trump can actually say, hey, Virginia National Guard, I don't want you to do anything but protect the Second Amendment sanctuary counties from any and all aggressors. The Virginia lawmakers are in rebellion to the Constitution of the United States. That's all Donald Trump has to do. He picks up a pen, writes an executive order and says, I find the Commonwealth of Virginia legislative body in rebellion to the Constitution of the United States and the United States of America. And then he tells the Virginia National Guard to protect all sanctuary counties. And then that means that anybody who's not in a sanctuary county, well, you might be actually getting an ankle bracelet. See, I've been investing as a guy who's very positive, thinking that we're going to work this out without real bloodshed. And this is how it's done, is my fantasy here of how it might play out. No thanks, I'll let the sponsors in. Anyway, I've been investing in ankle bracelets. So, you know, the hot new stock in my fantasy stock world, you know, fantasy football. Well, I'm doing fantasy worldwide politics, heading towards the worldwide conflict, and I'm looking at the predicteds and the Deagle and the news. And right now, it's a cheap bet. I predict it, but right now I say go long with one impeachment, because Supreme Court has made fools of the Democrats, and either they're going to have to pretend to recognize the third branch and remove one impeachment. But if they ignore that branch that says yes, we're gonna take this into consideration, and we'll give you a ruling. And so, you know, just relax there, Mr. Congressman. Well, you haven't come to us, but the other side has. In other words, it just takes one to bring a complaint to court. Now, Congress has been getting notice through their giving. Congress has been served notice in the public arena. So outside the halls of Congress, Vince McMahon and his paid mouthpiece have come out, Fox News and all the others. They're out there in front of the arena right now going, hey guys, the referee says he'll give a ruling on this, so let's hold off. We'll see what the ref says. It's time to take a breath. We need the ruling from the ref. Well, the Dems right now haven't made any motions to remove one of the amendments. Now, it's not up to the Republicans to make that motion. The Republicans at this point are all there to vote no. That's it. I would stand mute, because the fight is not with there's no more showboating. In my opinion, and this is an opinion for all my state legislative bodies who are Republican. If you're a Republican legislative body, you need to disassociate yourself from Richmond. We need to back away from Richmond and their open revolt against the Constitution of the United States of America, and trust that Donald Trump is going to show up with the pen. He might show up with the pen. Trust in the Trump. He might show with the pen. Trust in the Trumper. So trust in the pen, man. He has a pen. See, he still has the control. He has to agree to step down. And if all of a sudden in the Senate they go kitty wampus and they say, no, Donald, we're gonna change the rules and allow for 51% to win, right? No. Now, if all of a sudden Donald says, I want this to occur in the Senate, and the Republicans say no, it's over. Second, that Roberts rules on an objection from a Democrat, because that's what he's going to do. It's going to be like when you go to court, I think, and there's going to be a vote and a rejection, and the rejection is going to suck. It's going to suck wieners, man. It's going to suck big wieners. And when Robert rules against the Republican defense on an objection, saying that it has to be within the scope of the charge, abuse of power. All you can do is bring up people who say you didn't abuse your power. You're not allowed to. This is not an investigation into the Democrats. This is not an investigation into Biden. You know, this is an investigation. This is a trial as to whether or not you abused your power. And so all Donald's going to be able to bring in are constitutional and government lawyers. The Democrats are going to say, no. We object to this one. We object to that one. And they're going to call all your witnesses partisan. And they're going to call all their witnesses as neutral, objective people who really care about the United States of America. Not that I'm not holding a, allegiance, because I came over here as a Bolshevik. And I've been trained and indoctrinated in Bolshevism via the Marxist, Leninist way. Marxist, Leninist, Maoist way. I mean, it's an amalgamation. They take what they like. They like certain things about Pol Pot. Democrats would have people with glasses killed if they could. If their leaders told them that you being an idea of thinking you have gifts from God and that you're an individual, well, and they would blame it on the glasses, you would end up dead. You don't kid yourself that Nancy Pelosi wouldn't gavel down that anybody who wears glasses should be democide. Anyway, you should distance yourselves from it. When they introduce legislation that is in violation of the Constitution, you should stand up and walk away. And declare them in open rebellion, go back to your counties, and become the political arm of the militia. That's your job. Your job is now the political arm of the militia in these sanctuary cities. I know. It's radical thought. Nobody's really talking about it. But if you're a Republican, and as soon as they introduce legislation onto the floor, you should say, on guard. In other words, you're forewarned. Openly declare them while you're in there seditious, and to retreat to your counties. And then you guys have the info. Everything they do in those bodies is on the internet, so it's all there. And Donald, you gotta declare everybody who is a federal worker, regardless if they have a secret, top secret. We got to go through no more secrets. Everything is gonna hit the table. Things are gonna go as planned. Now, a Christian nation, we're just gonna remove those who just don't seem to be able to get along. We have to. We have to remove you from our land. There's no coexistence. We can't coexist. That is Lucifer's mantra. Coexist. Now you can't coexist with him because Lucifer doesn't want to coexist. He's just tricking you into going along with what he wants. And one of the things he wants to do is be able to do his Luciferian things among you. In other words, let him happen, and as soon as Lucifer realizes he has a majority enough to instill fear in you and prevent you from stopping him doing his Luciferian things, right? Because that's what it is. Lucifer spoke in Virginia. Lucifer has spoken. Lucifer is already setting up the game plan. They put paperwork into the hopper that is seditious, and it's in rebellion to the Constitution of the United States of America. I went through school here in Virginia, and I can read. And right here, arms. And this is from 1828, and this is pre-Civil War. So this is organically speaking. And this is the American Dictionary of the English Language. And so there is no bar association. Infringement means to regulate. It doesn't mean that. Shall not be infringed. What shall not be infringed? Weapons of offense or armor for defense and protection of the body. Now, that actually also means that there is no right for our President of the United States to go out and make a nuclear agreement with any other country. He has no right under the Second Amendment to infringe on arms. So when they say that they have an arms treaty that limits America, that's sedition, man. I'm sorry. It is what it is, Mr. Put on your patriot hat. But anyway, I can read. I went to school here in Fairfax County, Virginia, and I know what it means. So if I have to go through the courts and sue to be compensated, because they have to compensate me for the infringement, and the infringement's already occurred. I already know that. I'm no stupid ass. Now Lucifer is going to go ahead and try to use his will on the American people, and that's what they have done. They put the will. They spelled out to the American people in Virginia their will, and the governor has agreed to it. So he's agreed to legislation that is being put into the hopper, which is seditious, and he says he's going to sign it and enforce it. And then the people who are writing this seditious legislation and putting their names on it are going around saying, we have an arm of our Luciferian army, Virginia National Guard, and we're going to use them on the sanctuary cities. So they've let us know. I don't even know why anybody who's a Republican would show up to be sworn in at all. Because other than to just pro forma and then leave. There's no reason for you to be there. They're gonna enact this legislation, and they're gonna cut off all the funding to the counties. So now the counties have got to self-fund. Well, that means that the counties aren't going to send any tax money to Richmond. They're going to keep it here. So everybody who's in Augusta County who's paying taxes to Richmond is just going to send the money to Augusta County, maybe. But then they're going to say that each county is not allowed to have banks. So they're going to reach into the banking system of Virginia. And I tell you what, if you're a banking system in Virginia, you're going to have to choose sides. Either your banks are going to stay inside of the seditious counties, or your banks are going to be only in the Second Amendment counties. These are issues that are coming down the pike, and they're going to come quick and fast. You know. Now, the reason that I played this video, Iron Mountain lies, in its truth telling, and what it is the blueprint of what is coming. And well, see, Lyndon Johnson didn't want this out. There's a reason that Kennedy was murdered, is that he chose to go up against the black nobility. He actually said, you know what? I know my family are criminals, but God damn it, this is our criminal country, not theirs. And that's what he did, because he went up against the people who work for foreign agents. And the foreign agents are involved with all these multi-jurisdictional task forces. And when I say multi-jurisdictional, That does not mean the jurisdictions are limited to only within the United States. They are global. These are people who teach you that you live on a globe and that they want to have one mind control over the entire ball. And that's where you get cabal from. The cabal. That's it. There's just going to be the cabal. I love Roddenberry because he has a sense of humor, and there's one element inside of Deep Space Nine called the Syndicate, and that goes right back to a very eye-opening movie called Catch-22, which I don't know, if you read the book, maybe it does better justice to the situation. But Catch-22 is a movie, made a point. You know, I fucking got it. The point is right out of due to the nature of the conclusions of intelligent people. This is what's really going on. Okay. At great risk, under the name of John Doe. They called it a conspiracy theory. Die in awe. Press. Die all press. And literally, the magicians have to put their stuff out. So I know that it's a satanic ritual that the Virginian politicians who were in open rebellion against the Constitution of the United States of America put their legislation in. They wanted everybody to consent. They wanted everybody just to go, oh shucks. And now they are literally threatening violence against people who are cornered and want and believe, because they went to school like I did, that the Constitution means what it means and says what it says. And the dictionaries are plain and simple. Here's the 1828 dictionary. We don't need the constitutional dictionary of today, written by bar members and copyrighted by them now, to say that infringement means regulated. You can, as long as you regulate it, you can infringe on arms. No. You can only regulate the militia, and that means that you can say that there is a militia, maybe there is not a militia. But by saying there is not a militia, you're not allowed to regulate arms. It just says, no, arms shall not be regulated. But because militias can be regulated, in other words, the governor could, in theory, send an order out down through whatever powers he has under militia in the Code of Virginia, and say that if you muster as militia, you can only show up with a 357 model Smith & Wesson 19. That's it. That's all you're allowed to show up with. Nothing else. You have to come bare butt naked. Or he can give a TNA, or the equipment. He can regulate. Or he can say that, you know what? Right now, there's no such thing as militia. But that doesn't give him permission to regulate arms. The two are connected in that in order to call up the militia, the populace has to be armed. So the populace has to be armed. And that means everything of war and everything to protect you in your body. In other words, if I want to put lead paint on my house to protect me from radar, I have every right to. Now, you can't do that in America anymore, because in the 50s they realized that lead paint prevented them from driving around with their radars and radaring you. The radar gun was invented a long, long time ago, man. As soon all they did was allowed the Royal Institute allowed Madame Curie to show it to you. RI has been in charge of this since the beginning of the Irish gods. Rye. Right? Rye. Rye, man. Rye. Rye. But the most important thing for today's information is that it said how the apparatchiks planned on doing what they're going to do. And it's the same way that was done in the Soviet. The Soviet used multi-jurisdictional task force. They just called them Mongols and then Ukrainians. And what they did is they brought people in from other parts of the globe to oppress an area. It is real. It is real. It is very disturbing. La 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 la. Let me see. I wanted to see, there was I can't read it. It is a look into the soul of Lucifer, the Antichrist. I agree with that. Long foretold by Jesus Christ, who, in his love for mankind, warned us 2,000 years ago this was coming. It is here now. Anyway, in the beginning, in the first 7 minutes, it tells you exactly. Multi-jurisdictional task force. And that's what's going to happen here in Virginia. But I suspect they're going to have to bring in people outside the United States because people are collapsing in on Virginia. You know, Virginia has to be taken by Lucifer to protect their seat. And they will spring to Denver, okay? But they will go to Denver if they can. Or Trump goes to Denver, okay? Because I do not know. Trump could end up in Denver. But I do know that the man with the mechanical heart, the man without a heart, is still president of the United States. They don't talk about the continuity of government at all. The kayfabe is on. The continuity of the government is underground now, and the kayfabe is being played out in front of us. But the symbolic, the flag is D.C. And Nancy Pelosi has planted her flag. She made a recent talk show appearance in purple. So the purple tie gang is still in charge. They're still in charge. Now, State of the Nation, British NHS advancing cultural Marxist agenda with transphobic vengeance. LGBT mafia dictating transgender content for Marvel movie franchise. Let's see. Wow. Giuliani's Ukraine investigation yields serious evidence against deep state perps. See, this is flight forward. The Silicon Valley Gulag. Internet is on fire about the situation in Virginia. Virginia sheriff vows to deputize citizens if gun laws pass. Well, no. See, that he can do, but what's going to happen is that Virginia is a place where in your county, you're not supposed to be able to do anything unless you're given the right to by the code. That's the way it's supposed to be. But there are violations of it, and I fought Augusta County on that, and I got told, shut up or you're going to go into a hole. You're going to be put in the cage. You're not allowed to talk about us violating the code because we don't need no stinking code. So what is going on with the Second Amendment resolutions can be easily undone by the Virginia Code. So that they're just going to go say the code says you can't do what you're doing, so you're now in rebellion. So it's going to be two different people. It's going to be the militia or the people, the populace who are not to be disarmed, who have the right of free speech, have right to be secure in their property. Now, of course, they're going to play the game of we're going to pay you for your guns. That doesn't negate infringe. It doesn't say, oh, well, it's okay, then we can force you because we're going to give you money. Infringement is infringement. If I want to give you my gun for money, that's fine. That's not a violation of the Second Amendment. And if the legislative body of Virginia wants to buy guns, that's fine. But to say I have to sell you the gun or it can be taken away, well, that's sedition. And that's you trespassing and violating the social contract. And the social contract is the Constitution of the United States of America. I went to a Fairfax County public school here in Virginia, in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I am squared away. I have a document that says I know how to read and write. I can bring that to court and prove that they are in violation of the social contract. I can show that the date that the Constitution and the Second Amendment was written, and I can show a dictionary from 1828 that backs me up. They're going to have to come with evidence that proves that infringement, they had the right to legislate the word out of existence. They don't. They have to change the Constitution physically. They have to say, okay, we're going to rewrite the Constitution to should not be taken away as opposed to shall not be infringed. Because they've already done that in history.org. They rewrote it. They teach the children in school now that it should not be taken away, which is in violation of sedition, and shame on everybody who has children in school now, including myself. We've allowed Lucifer to run amok, and we've coexisted with Lucifer playing games. We've coexisted with Lucifer telling us that the language is living, and as long as we have people in black robes who belong to a private organization, they're allowed to tell you the new definition of the living language, and that's it. Infringe does not mean. Does it mean what it means? Shall not does not mean shall not. Infringe means yes, as long as it's written in a code or written in an ordinance. It's okay then. They're allowed to infringe as long as they put it in the ordinance or put it in the code. Right? Right? That's what the black robes are there for. Donald Trump is worshiping at Lucifer's feet. You're going to watch the guy show up. I think when they did it last time, he wore stripes on his uniform, man. He went full fucking psycho. He festooned himself. He took on a cloak, a robe. That's a title of nobility, man. A robe is a title of nobility. Oh yeah, he has every right to put on the title of nobility. Right. Your Honor, oh, that's not a title of nobility. When Vindman dressed down Nunes and told him to call him Lieutenant Colonel, at that point, that was in violation of the title of nobility. He was demanding that the people who gave him his uniform address him by his uniform. Fucking insanity. Fucking insanity. He was telling his creator to bow to him. Holy shit, it would have been simple to me. Nunes was taken aback, and he did what everybody else who's brainwashed to do, is as he was polite. But maybe Nunes says, excuse me, are you testifying here because you were at your job wearing that uniform when you did what you did? When you listened to that call, were you wearing your uniform? Yes or no? And if yes, who authorized you to wear your uniform while doing a civilian job? See, Vindman wearing his uniform is part of it. There is part that is part, whatever part it is, there is a military element to the coup. So you have the sovereign who festoons his troops, and they showed up and said, "We are sovereign," and Donald Trump is not the sovereign. Donald Trump does not represent the sovereign wishes of the Republican Party and the administration. We are the sovereign party in the administration, and Donald Trump is not. That's what went on, man. Two nations are fighting. Two states are fighting. Two sovereigns are fighting. This is biblical crap, I think. Julie Silicone, Virginia sheriff vows to deputize citizens if gun laws pass. He should actually be deputizing citizens now and putting them through training. He should deputize a certain layer of citizens to start training, and then they train So that sheriff should be starting to train people. Pope busted. Bishops denounce Vatican's UN allies. There's two popes. New York Post editorial board names Eric CIA Ramallah as whistleblower. IG report details confirm FBI apostrophes spying scandal. Media conclusion. FBI has one job and one job only in the apparatchik, and that's Comey and all the rest of them. That is to stop all investigations they don't want to occur. You can see how sloppy that they were when they had to start one of their own. They had to create. They created one because generally they organically occur, and good investigators stumble across things that they're not supposed to, and that gets stopped, and they get assigned to something that is supposed to be that is allowed, which is basically anybody who is being sacrificed or their competition. They go after the competition. You know, There's an organic competition to all crime. There's organic competition. I mean, look what they do. How they've outlawed through ordinances and codes the feeding of the homeless. Why can't you go up and feed somebody on the street? You can ask somebody, "Are you hungry?" "That's fine. Here's some food." Virginia sheriff vows. IG report details confirms FBI spying. Well, okay. FBI is always spying. And they used multi-jurisdictional task force to do their spying. That's what they were doing. You see, they were using and they're allowed to, Donald Trump's not allowed to, but they're allowed to use multi-jurisdictional task force. See, Donald Trump's not allowed to ask for the task force to do something. They're in charge of policy. The task force, Vindman and crowd, they're in charge. The State Department is in charge of the FBI and whatever crap that's going on. See, they're not going to allow Donald Trump to bring in the FBI agents who are supposed to be working with the FBI agents of Ukraine, is he? Nah, he won't be able to. They're going to say, "Donald Trump, did you abuse your power?" Of course he didn't abuse his power. He has a treaty, and he has every right to ask for the task force to talk. He has every right to know whether or not anybody in the United States who is a registered voter, if you're a registered voter, Donald Trump has the right to investigate you at a whim. And that's the Supreme Court. Will they let that cat out of the bag? Will they let it out of the bag? Are you no longer a registered voter when you take office? I think you're still a registered voter. 5G crisis, 20,000 satellites. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 200. 1, no, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 2. 0, 1, 1, 2, 4. 0, 1, 1, 2, 4, 8. 20,000 doesn't make sense. Candidate for disgraced Democratic California Rep. Katie Hill seat wants to legalize bestiality. Loses Bernie's endorsement. Well, he only uses sheepskin condoms. Democrat congressman flips to GOP after impeachment fiasco. Did it flip parties? That is something I'm interested in. Okay. Anti-impeachment Democratic Jeff Van Drew of New York has confirmed that he will switch parties and become a Republican. All right. He deserves congratulations. He's got a white scarf on. On Saturday, congressional campaign staff notified, Democrat sources tell Politico. So it's the staff that let the cat out of the bag. His staff, who weren't loyal to him, let the cat out of the bag. Holy shit, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. That fucker switched. Wow. Yeah, well, he has a conscience. He was told it was going to be bipartisan. That's a big deal. Donald now. Did Donald Trump tweet that? Do you think he tweeted on that yet? I have no fucking idea. There's only one way to find out. Tweet. Did Donald catch that? Did he tell everybody? Let's see. Did he welcome aboard? Aha. Jeff Van Drew. I'll see Nancy at the White House to present the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. What? What? Yeah, 10 hours ago. Van Drew. Van Drew. They kicked him out. They're going to kick that other one out too. So that other congressman is probably going to announce they're Republican. I would so if it goes down a party line, all the Republicans should move to their states. They should walk out, because this is a Civil War moment. It's a walkout moment. And people aren't talking about it, but if the vote is down party lines, the Republicans should pack up their offices, remove all their paperwork. They should all be preparing and have moving vans booked and ready to go. Remove all their computers, all their paperwork, everything from their offices. They should be doing that already. Everybody who's a Republican down in Washington, D.C. should be retreating to their states and walk out. They should walk out and no longer participate in the Congress. It's no longer Congress. It'll give Trump the moral it'll give him the moral majority, okay? Because everybody knows the situation. Donald Trump did not violate any law. There is a treaty. He is allowed to invoke the treaty. Now, just because he uses the word favor to be cordial and not seem to be demanding something, in other words, that's up to the diplomat to talk to his counterpart and say, look, the treaty says X, Y, and Z. We'd like to invoke the treaty. So whenever you invoke the treaty, it's a demand. I am invoking the treaty. Donald Trump did not invoke the treaty because he was being cordial. He could have played it straight and just said, you know what? My lawyer says that I got to talk to you this way, so congratulations on your win. I invoked the treaty. And by invoking the treaty, I'd like to have you disclose to my DOJ representatives all the information you have concerning the 2016 election and any investigations you did with Ukrainian involvement. Thank you very much. We're going to get to the bottom of this. I'm sorry that I have to put you in this position. I back you 100%. Here's some Javelin fucking rockets. I'm sorry Donald Trump didn't say it that way. Donald Trump is a nice guy, obviously. He tried. Look, this is a nice guy. This is. I will see Nancy at the White House to present the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. I am so sorry. You know, there's not an ex-wife out there who's at odds in the court with their husband that would do this. I'm sorry. There's no way. There's no. Nancy Pelosi might not show up, but Nancy Pelosi showing up, is she going to sit there and point at the president again and then come out and go, ooh, he was so mean? Donald Trump is still pretending that there's civility going on after what occurred when the de facto hearings were held. They're de facto. That's the real word, de facto. They're not they weren't. They're shams because they're de facto. De facto hearings were held. The parliamentarian did not rule that there would be a day of hearings. So are they gonna toss the legislation out? They've already put it to the floor, so the hearings are over. They've closed. Isn't that if they take that paperwork and they move it from their desk to the floor? Doesn't that end any hearings? Isn't that the end of the hearing? They hear it when it's on their desk. I see the judge get from the clerk a piece of paper. He takes it, puts it on his desk, and says, "The hearing has begun," and starts the ceremony. And then the hearing is over, and he hands the paperwork back to the clerk. There's no more hearing. So the paperwork has been thrown to the floors. To the floor. Now, did it go from one committee to the floor and then back to another committee? I don't even know if it followed that kind of procedure or not, because I didn't hear it did. U.S. Senator graphically exposes complex criminal conspiracy perpetrated. It's sedition. He exposes sedition, man. Yeah, it's crime, but it's sedition. Some of it's sedition, some of it's treason. You know, we know that it's a Marxist, it's a Karl Marx action. Accuse your enemy of what you are doing. The Democratic Party, in their apparatchik within the bureaucracy, abused their power. It was an abuse of power. And they're continuing to abuse their power until they go to jail. And as soon as one of them goes to jail, then that occurs. I'm going to see this. I'm almost done, man. I'm burnt on today. I got to go out and hunt and gather. And then I've got chores to do. And I got to do chores, then go hunt and gather, then do chores. FBI gate. All right. Josh Hawley. Oh, there's my drone. I can't wait to get my drone. Carvana.
To be honest with you, here's the question that I'm struggling with. Which is worse? Is it worse to have a foreign government trying to meddle in our elections? Or is it worse to have our own government meddling in the election?
It's both. But they had both doing it. They're preventing Donald Trump from invoking multi-jurisdictional task force because that's the domain of Karl Marx and his followers. From beyond the grave, Karl Marx inspires the communists in the Democratic Party to accuse their enemy of what they are doing. I'm busted now.
Because that's, I think, exactly what this report shows. It shows that our government, the most powerful law enforcement agency in the nation, the FBI, effectively meddled in an ongoing presidential campaign. And the thing that gets me is you expect it from foreign governments. I'm not saying it's good, but I'm saying that you expect it. They've been doing it for years. Russia's been doing it for years. We know they tried to do it this last cycle. China has been doing it. Others have been doing it. And we know what steps to take. We've got to take them more effectively. But when our own government does it, how can the American people have confidence? And what do we do? I mean, what do we do? And there's one actor here, I think, who has not gotten the credit that they collectively deserve, and that's the Democrat National Committee. I just think, I've heard my friends on the other side of the aisle complain about Hillary Clinton's campaign and how ineffective it was and how the DNC didn't do a good job in 2016. I beg to differ. This is the most incredible. The DNC pays for the Steele dossier, solicits the Steele dossier, and then gets the Federal Bureau of Investigation to go get FISA warrants, surveil an American citizen, surveil a presidential campaign, all on the basis of this manufactured garbage that they paid for. I mean, that's extraordinary. That has got to be a first time in history. In fact, let me just ask you, Mr. Horowitz, are you aware ever of another presidential campaign being targeted by the FBI during the campaign like the Trump one was, to your knowledge? Has this ever happened?
To my knowledge, but I wouldn't suggest I'm an expert on.
But to your knowledge, no. You're not aware of anything like this. So, and I'm correct in thinking that the Steele dossier, the Fusion GPS dossier, was solicited by and paid for the DNC. I mean, that's correct based on what we know.
Or the Clinton campaign or the DNC, it was ultimately learned by the FBI that was the case, or that came to be their belief.
And then, so we get the Steele dossier. It's fed to the FBI. The FBI goes and asks for these FISA warrants, which have all of the problems that you have articulated and that my colleagues have drawn out, including sometimes outright fabrication of evidence in these FISA applications. And then not only does the FBI get a surveillance program ongoing effectively of a presidential campaign during cycle, but they also get, the DNC also gets, news stories written during the campaign about the surveillance program. In September of 2016, there's a story about possible counterintelligence investigation of the Trump campaign. In October of 2016, there's a story about the FBI investigating the Trump campaign, and we know on that last one that that Steele himself was involved. Is that correct? In October.
That's correct, and the FBI actually ultimately knew that he was involved in the September one as well.
And yet, what action did the FBI take when they knew these two facts?
Well, in November they closed him, but then met with.
What did the Crossfire Hurricane teams take? What steps did they take when they knew this about Steele? Is what I should ask.
I'm sorry. Well, what happened is they closed him as a source in November, but that's when the meetings with Mr. Orr started, where he was the conduit between them.
Right. So he's still able. The FBI still it takes the information just via a DOJ conduit, which is its own separate, unbelievable.
Right there was the hidden hand. The investigation got shut down by the career investigators, and then they had to find another way to keep that same source in on the program. So that right there is the hidden hand. That's the clumsiness. See, they were trying to push something past career guys, and they couldn't do it. They had to create a new conduit. So anyway, this is very disturbing. The world is upside down. I have to go now. I have to go now because I can't take any more of this, and I got to go do other stuffs, and I want to take my mind off of this. I've wrapped my mind around it. Good luck to all you representatives who think you're going to negotiate with Lucifer. Lucifer is going to have you decapitated. The only thing that's gonna occur is the 40 cal that they bought or the 9mm that they bought. See, the government always buys these huge lots of stuff. Maybe they'll use those, or maybe they'll use the anecdotal guillotines. But if Lucifer has his way, he's going to take your head or put a bullet in the back of it. And if you're a Republican, you need to distance yourself and find protection because of this treason. And then if the Republicans walk out of Congress when this is sent over to the Senate and go back to their bodies and say, hey, we need to protect ourselves because this is out of control. I don't know what's going to happen in the Senate. There could be a defection amongst Republicans there. We know in Virginia where the lines are being drawn, but we don't know whether or not the senators in some of these states are going to stay loyal to the Constitution of the United States of America. Look, all the Democrats waived the Constitution. They waived it and said the Constitution means what it says what it means. They're liars. That's a trope on their part. They don't believe that. They festoon themselves as actors. They play a role to get a goal achieved. And Behart told you the truth on The View when she said, shut up about the gun control, get elected, then do it. In other words, refuse to talk about it or lie to your constituents. Look, I'm not talking about gun control. It's not something I'm worried about. So elect me. I'm your neighborhood good guy. And then that's a fraud. When you first thing you do, you get in there and you start voting for gun control. And shame on you if you elected those people. Shame on you. Shame on you. At this point in time, the Library of Constantinople is available to you. It's the greatest library in the world. Shame on you. Like I was talking to a state senator the other day, and he tried to say oh shucks, these people just don't know yet. They just don't see. And I said, dude, shut up. I said, no, that's not true. At this point in time, they know they're seditious. And they know that people in their own party are committing treason, and they're not kicking them out. And if they're not moving and vocally trying to kick them out, they're in on the crime. They need to go to the OIC and report the crime. You are an OIC. And I brought that state senator over to an OIC, and I said, you know about a crime? You need to tell him. You need to protect yourself, because under the code, if you do not tell an OIC about a crime that you are aware of, and the OIC and then the people who commit the crime get arrested, and you're asked why you didn't report the crime, well, that could be a problem in itself for you. So just be careful. If you know about the crime and you're not going to the OIC, you can end up with a bracelet too. And don't forget, invest in those bracelets. I want to thank everybody who showed up throughout the last hour and a half, 2 hours. I don't think I got more than an hour 45 minutes. I have to actually go back. Let me see. What was the replay? Replay. I lost my earlier replay. How long was it? It froze up on me. It was 21 minutes. So I had 21 minutes before it froze. Let's see, how long did it freeze for? See, I wasn't paying attention. Oh, I'm yammering. I'm doing the IR conversation. Let's see, hold on. Oh, I'm looking at this. Oh, okay. Well, I got to trying to spell Idriel. Misspelled Israel. I did to do it again. Israel. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for showing up. God bless you for stopping by. Good luck in the future. I want to thank my latest guy right here. We're going to visit his channel real quick. My homie. He doesn't have nothing going on. He's got a couple followers. Thank you to my latest, the countryman. Who knows if that means Virginia country or back onto the plantation of God's country. Country, that could be everywhere on this earth. Thank you. I appreciate it that you would show up and go ahead and take the time to follow me. I follow you. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.